Hey, what's good, everyone? Welcome back to the Outside the Box podcast. My name is Nick Ingval. And on this podcast, as you know, I try to kind of expose some different areas, different opportunities in the sneaker world. And today I've got someone who I just enjoy following and seeing her content. Lucy, how's it going? Welcome to the show.
Hi, welcome. Welcome. Thank you for welcoming me. I'm usually the one saying welcome, so have it. But thanks for
Of
having me. I'm
course.
really excited.
Yeah, of course, of course. So I guess give like a quick rundown of who you are, what you do, and then we'll get into some questions and let people get to know you a little better.
Yeah, so I am Mexican born, Los Angeles raised. I am from LA, I guess I always say that, but I am a content creator at heart. I have a passion for creating non-traditional content and telling stories that need to be told. But yeah, I'm currently based out of LA, just looking for new opportunities and building with other brands.
I think we probably connected through like your work at Aglet. Like I'm fascinated by what you and what Ryan and everyone there has done. Like I just think it's fascinating. I'm super kind of intrigued by everything that's like trying to take the real world and make it digital, and then vice versa too, because to me that's like kind of it's like the natural place where like you and I, kind of play in the same field, right? In terms of like creating content, you can't do one without the other. But Aglet's kind of in a really unique space where like primarily it's like all in this, gamified world. But one of the things that I have always kind of just been intrigued about in your content creation is just like how you do have a very unique, I think, as someone who works with content creators and has for close to 20 years now, I I see people's eye for aesthetics, right? Like eye for like just it's easy to see that everything looks the same on the internet, but like there's certain people, and I would say this is what drew me into your content and a lot of the stuff that have seen you work on. Just kind of like it's just a different perspective that I can't really explain it with words, but like when I scroll through and see like everyone trying to emulate someone else, and then like just like there's like a level of confidence that you can see in content, and I think that's what drew me to your stuff. And like just hopefully looking forward to getting to know you today, talking with you, and obviously looking to build in the future with you, and see how this all works out. But I guess like let's start at the very basics for everyone. Like what got you into sneakers, and how did you find interest in sneakers?
Yeah, so, and thank you so much for saying all of those things, first of all. I am like on cloud nine right now. It's great to you put so much work into your craft that sometimes the reassurance isn't like there all the time. So hearing people talk about my work this way is really reassuring, and it makes me feel like, okay, I want to go out and shoot some more. But I did start really getting into sneakers. I would say maybe around like middle school. I couldn't afford the nicest, most bestest sneakers. Like I was still wearing my Fufu bootlegs from the swap meet,
Yep.
but I was rocking them with pride, and I'm really humbled by those beginnings, and I think it made me appreciate the value in sneakers and material things even more. My first pair of sneakers were like some all white K Swiss, the classics, super. That's what I had to get because that's what my mom could afford. But I rocked them with pride, and I will still remember those forever. I think they're called like icons now.
Yep.
Hopefully, K Swiss, if you're watching, give me that partnership. Let's go. But yeah, that's really what got me into it. And then in college, I found a passion for photography. And then I started working with a men's fashion blog. So I started getting really into the men's fashion part of it. And I kind of put my own twist on it with like trying to focus on streetwear photography and like sneakers and fashion and lifestyle, and just kind of like create my own thing from there. And that was the start of like my passion for sneakers and photography and creativity, really. And I think they go hand in hand, because I express myself through my sneakers, I express myself through my fashion, but I also express myself through my work and what I capture. So that's how I got started.
Yeah, it's crazy because I think like you know being into the sneaker thing for such a long time, and like hearing you talk about K Swiss, like it was such a big deal in California, right? Like like as a kid, like I think we, you know, we see all these brands and we see all this cool stuff and there's all this crazy hype now, but like having like an all white pair of K Swiss was like incredibly special, like in California for a very long time, that I don't think most people outside of California fully understand. It was kind of like the Air Force One in a sense, you know, when you look at like New York and how everybody wanted a fresh pair. And like I remember like just like, you know, like it was like I think it was like $70 or $80, and like it wasn't quite my family was like, you know, $30 a year, never over that for, you know, until I started working and doing my own thing. But like when I got a pair of K Swiss, it was like I had got like a pair of Nikes, but then the it was like, you know, Nike basketball in the 90s, so it was like colorful and all that, and I would like repaint them because I wore them for everything. But the K Swiss was like the first one that I remember like actually getting like paintbrushes to repaint the white so it looked fresh. I mean, in
Yeah, I was
hindsight, it
thinking
probably
white.
looked terrible, but yeah, but like we were just like anything I could to like make sure that it was back to like normal. But
Oh
yeah,
my god, those were my like go-tos. And honestly, like even the bootleg, you know, like the Swap Me ones, I was still like rocking them and I was still taking care of them. But I think like I've never been a person that like likes to spend on themselves. So that first pair, it was like, you know, birthday money. I was like, okay, I'm gonna
yeah,
get the ones I want. Like every time I was thinking about like I'm the oldest of four, so I have three younger brothers, so I was always like, what can I get them, or like how can I help my parents? But this time I was like, I'm gonna buy myself something for me, and that was like my first pair, and I felt so proud of it. And like you think
yeah.
about it now, like we don't really see a lot of like K Swiss coming back. I do hope they can make a comeback because I believe in all brands. But we'll see. We'll see what comes next.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny. Like I'm the oldest of four as well. I have two younger brothers and a younger sister, and same kind of thing, right? Like it's one of those things. Like I still to this day don't like. I mean, I'm old enough where I've just collected shit for years, so I have a bunch of things, but like I still don't spend on me the way I would spend on my siblings, like, you know,
Yeah,
or my nieces and nephews now. It's like it's just a whole different thing. But
it
so
is.
how
About spending on others. Yeah.
of course, yeah, and like that's kind of like the thing that I am trying to do with like my content at this point, right? Like I've been someone who's been behind the scenes for a really long time. Like I've done a lot of stuff that people know of, but 90% of my work is behind someone that's, you know, more famous or whatever than I ever wanted to be. So I'm trying to find you know, a balance in between like I don't want the fame, but I also want people to know all the cool people that I've met and like connect people. So it's interesting that you talked about, you know, kind of how that like photography and sneakers and like the creative output of, you know, of what kind of is what the drive is, right? And I think that that's something that I wish that could be translated in an Instagram post, right? Like that's the one thing that I think people just, you know, when people just don't understand like the amount of work that goes into it and the amount of like it sounds bad, but like the amount of like disappointment that is almost guaranteed because you can't get that out of likes, right? Like so there's got to be another way of measuring that, but that'll be something we'll figure out down the road.
Yeah. We'll talk about it later.
Yeah. So how did you, you know, kind of transition from, you know, you talked about the streetwear stuff and the doing the work for the men's blog. How did that turn into kind of what you do now and like some of the stuff you've done in the years in between?
Yeah. So currently, I am, we brought this up before, a community manager for Aglet. Aglet is a startup gaming app. So I transitioned into it because I was like, okay, it's sneakers. Let me see. Let me check it out. I checked out the app, really loved it. And then prior to that, I had been working with different brands over the years and kind of same thing as what you just explained is like building up other brands and building up other people and doing a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. And so for a really long time, I was never really a face of anything. Not that I'm the face of Aglet now, but as a community manager, I do get to do IG Lives, Twitch, and kind of build that community. But it's really funny how it started actually. So I got tagged in a tweet on Twitter, and it was like Aglet's head of growth at the time. He was looking for somebody to help with press. And I was like, well, and at the time I had just lost my job because of COVID, and my husband had also lost his job. So I was like, I'm on unemployment. I have nothing to lose right now. Like, let's take on the opportunities, you know? And so I saw that that little posting was made, and I got tagged in it, and I reached out and I was like, I've never done press, but like, why not? Like, why not just put myself out there, shoot my shot, let's see what happens. So I slid in those DMs, and lo and behold, a month in, I started off as an intern, and a month in, they were like, okay, no, like, you're not an intern. You're actually our community manager and head of social. So I was like, all right, let me scoot on over there. I think it was mostly because I had never really met Ryan or Owen, who is also behind Aglet. Yeah. And once I started talking to them, and then they saw my background, they saw all the things that I had worked on, they were like, okay, yeah, let's, focus on this. So now I lead all of their creative content, and I am guiding their vision for what they want to see on socials and creatively. And we're actually working on a creator series. It is just to highlight pretty much anyone who's doing good things out in the world, regardless of your field, regardless of what it is that you do. You can be a chef, you can be an architect, you can be Joe Schmo on the street, but as long as you have a passion, we want to highlight that. And it really resonates with who I am, and I think that that's why I'm so drawn into Aglet, because after I saw, you see the basis, right? You see the app, you see that there's digital sneakers, and you can't really wrap your mind around the whole digital thing. And now we have NFTs, and there's all these things that are thrown into the mix. But behind it all, we're just people tasked with building the future of what sneakers and lifestyle and the digital space will be. We are moving in a direction where our life is not just, out in the world, it's virtual. We're all online. So how do we build that online, offline? We live on life. And that's the bigger brand that's behind Aglet. And so when you focus on the motives and you focus on the direction, and not focusing on so much on the likes and the shares and the people and the verification and all of those things, that, none of that means anything. If you're not trying to build something for the future. So that's why I'm so attached to it, and even more attached to it, not just because they give me a check. It's more about the passion and the change that we're trying to build. And I'm trying to do the same thing on my own. That's the reason why I founded my own creative agency, why I do so much freelance work, and why I work with the clients that I do, because I'm trying to build something different. I'm trying to move in a direction where you don't need a blue check or 10K followers to get that reassurance that your work is good enough to be noticed. So yeah, I guess that hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's fascinating too, because Aglet in itself is a really unique place in this, right? Where you have to think about how how that translates, right? How people, you're almost in an educational place just by being community manager, because most of the people that come through social don't know what's going on in the app, right? And that's an interesting kind of space to be in, because you have to think about almost two different types of content, right? Because on one hand, you're never going to see the connection, I'll throw this out as an example, but if I worked, I've worked at Finish Line before, right? So whatever we post on social media, there's a direct correlation to people finding that on the website, and it doesn't always work that way, with Aglet. But I think one thing that you guys collectively have done really well, and I think a lot of people can learn from the way you do this, you really, even prior to like seeing that you were going to do this, creator initiative, right? Like I think that like you've been able to find like, I think like the term influencer and like all the negativity that's associated with it is like, or the blue checks and like having to have so many followers, all that stuff doesn't matter, right? Like when you meet somebody or come across someone that is doing something that you're interested in, it doesn't, none of that stuff really matters. And I think what thinking about, I can't remember the guy's name that does like the YouTube kind of like super deep dive analytic.
Nile,
Yeah.
King
Well, like,
Nile.
but like those types of things are fascinating to me, right? Because it's like, here's this like person that's just super passionate, and it's impossible for me to not be excited about what he's doing because he's so excited about it. And I think that's kind of really fascinating about like kind of where I see how you're finding success, it seems like in like even before this, initiative that you're working on, where it's like, just finding the people that are passionate about it within the community even, and and then tying that to Discord and all these different places where people can connect even further. So how do you think about that? Like what's something that you would, that where you can, how do you keep that in mind, like where there is no like direct connection, right? You're not going to see, those videos within the app, but obviously they totally make sense and hit,
Right.
accord with like your consumer base.
Yeah. Well, the one thing that I think that, and you wouldn't know this if you're not like consistently following what Aglet is doing, but we are at the very beginning stages of what is going to be in a couple of years something much bigger than what we can even fathom. And I think that because we're at the very beginning stages, it allows to for us to be able to build an actual community where I don't care if I'm not getting the likes of all these other people, as long as we hit one person who believes in what we're doing and sees themselves as a part of this community and has a platform to either share their sneaker design, share what they're working on, share with us that they love the game, that they copped a new sneaker, that they learned about a sneaker or a brand that they never knew about. That's what we're building. We're building a platform where people don't just come and take. They come and they learn and they stay because they love it so much. So I think when we talk about how to translate from app to socials, that's something we're still trying to figure out. And it's fun because we're so new that we get to try a bunch of different things and just figure out what works. And that's the one thing that I love about Ryan and Owen and the Aglet team is like our thing is like make it fun. So if we're not having fun, we're not working. But yeah, it's just about trying to figure out different ways and developing the app so that it does reflect what we're doing on socials, and so that our socials also reflect what we're doing in app in a different way. And but also using and utilizing socials to really bring that entire community together, because there's a lot of people who don't feel like they fit in. You may like sneakers, but you are also super nerding out about NFTs, and you also love Bitcoin, and you love the digital space, and you want to learn about the metaverse, but there's no place for you. Like
Yeah.
Where is that place? Where do we build that? Do we want to be a Jock Slade, or do we want to be a Virgil Abloh? Where do we find this hub, this platform where everybody can coexist and it doesn't matter? The lines are blurred completely because you don't have to be one thing. And I think that's a whole nother like aspect of like why I love doing this and why it resonates with me so much, because I've always said that I've tried to be out of the box as much as I can. I've never allowed anyone to put a label on me. I am a photographer. I'm a videographer. I will show up on your Twitch stream. I will model for you. I'll cook for you. Tell me what you want to do. I'm a hustler at heart. So you have to be able to build other people and inspire other people to be fully themselves. We're at a point where I feel like the reassurance that people get from posting on Instagram or socials is like the end all be all, and it's not. You don't have to show up for anybody but yourself. As long as you are finding inspiration and you're inspiring and you're motivated to do the things that you want to do, you can try it all. Why not? what's there to lose if you take a chance on a passion that you have, or you build off of something that you may have not thought of. Like, I tried doing lashes. It didn't work out for me, but I tried it. Like, I made some money. I made my money back, and I'm happy about it. It's just about expanding on like the most basic thing, which is creativity. We want to encourage creativity. That's all it is.
Yeah. Do you find I am doing a million things, so I have to like I like this podcast is basically like right now is just one-on-one conversations. I have a podcast with the Sneaker History guys where it's like, hey, we have this Discord community, we have a bunch of people on Instagram that follow, but I find that our Discord is like, it's like the safe space for people to just be super into whatever they're into. Like, we, things that I would have never expected, like I have friends that like, I grew up going to my grandparents' house during the summer because my dad would be working. And like, I would sit there and watch the Golden Girls, like back to back to back every day. So we have like I made some comment in a podcast, long ago, and we like, somebody joked that we should have a Golden Girls channel in the Discord. Like, so we have all these like really nuanced things, but it's funny because like what you're saying about like, the Instagram likes, I find that we have like just a massive group of people, like, or massive percentage of the people. I would say, we're relatively small, but it's intentionally that way. But like, most of the people that are in our Discord have almost completely stopped even using Instagram. And like, to see them kind of like step out of their comfort zone of like, whether they have kids and they don't want to post the kids, or whether they just like don't want to have to keep up on social media stuff. It's really fascinating to kind of hear you say that, because I see it from a bunch of these people all the time where it's like, guys are like sharing recipes with each other, and like they only joined because of sneakers, so like it's really fascinating. But I was just curious if you see that same kind of, it's almost like, and it doesn't have to be Discord, right? People use different platforms, but the community aspect of, sounds like you guys are doing the same thing, where we're just almost creating this safe space for people to like be themselves and get to know each other, where like everywhere else they go, they kind of feel like they have to fit into certain things to to play the game.
Yeah,
So.
I definitely have seen a huge, and it's so funny that you say that, because I literally just had a conversation about this earlier this week with the person who handles all of our Discord. His name is Mike, and he's actually like 17 and in college. It's great. He lives in the Netherlands, and it's really cool to see that like some people are not as involved in social media as we think that they are, because of the thing that we're trying to fight is like the same thing all the time, or the same thing that's being sold to you and thrown in your face all the time. Like, how do we encourage people, yes, to use these social platforms to advance in life, to build a career, but also be themselves? Like, post what you like, post what you want. If you don't want to post, then don't post, but do you. But yeah, it's really funny that some people don't like to use Instagram, but they love being on Discord. I love going into Discord. I pop in every once in a while, and I'm like, hey, and then the whole Discord's like, hey, like, what's up? And I'm like, oh, I haven't been in here in a long time. They're like, we know. And I'm like, shit, like, I have to make sure I'm on top of this. But it's great to have a mini community of like people that like know you, and that you can share recipes with, or share memes, or like laugh about something I said on a live earlier,
Yeah.
I love building that little community. And I say little, it's pretty big. We got about like 1,000 people in there, but it's still little for me. Because we have such a tight, like, within our team, we're so tight, and we have about like 30 people working on our team as Aglet. But then we also have like our entire little community team on Discord and on Instagram and on Twitch, and they all come together, and they're like super supportive, and it's so good to see like reoccurring faces in my lives. And getting to know other people too, all over the world. It's crazy. That's the one thing that Aglet has done for me. It's like expanded my whole, besides the time zones, which are really fucking crazy. Sorry, am I allowed to curse
Yeah.
on?
Yeah, of course, of course.
Okay, sorry. Besides the time zones, like I've really been able to connect with people all over the world. Like if I go to France, I got somebody. If I go to, Japan, I know somebody. So it's been great. It's been great to like just meet people from all over the world and share their stories.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, that's the craziest part about, like, for me, like, sneakers has kind of been that thing where it's just like, I can't even imagine, like, if you would have told me all the people that I would meet, when I was in high school or something, just been like, there's no way, that's not even possible. But yeah, it's pretty wild. So tell me about, or tell us about Tomorrow Isn't Promised.
Yeah. So Tomorrow Isn't Promised is my creative agency. I founded it with my husband. It's Geza or Geza. Um, it is a creative agency focused on building non-traditional content. So we do consulting, we build actual content for different clients. But it's something that we had been working on for about 3 years prior to the pandemic hitting, and it was supposed to be an apparel brand, which is the like smaller version of it, which is Tip Supply. But then we were like, okay, we lost our jobs. What the hell do we do now? Let's go full forward. And that was like the kick in the butt that we needed to take things um, in house and to build ourselves at the same time as building other brands, because we said this before, but for so long we had been behind the scenes building Adidas, building Nike, building, for Reebok, like building for other brands. That it was great. It's really amazing to have all of those in my back pocket, because it shows for my work and the amount of work that I did over the years. But I needed to have something that was mine. And I think that now I feel more official, I feel more established, and I feel like in the direction that I want to go, that's where I need to be. And this is just the start for me. But it's a small team of two, three. Yeah, we're getting a third person. We're trying to get an intern. She's amazing. She's great. She's officially my intern. I'll just say that. But it's just people of color trying to create change in the world, working with other Black and Brown owned businesses, and trying to highlight, who we are, as a whole, as a community.
So how, like, what are some of the challenges you've dealt with in the, obviously the pandemic is one. I can totally relate, because same thing happened to me. Like, I was kind of on the other side of that, where I had started doing my own thing for a couple of years. Life was good, and then all of a sudden, like, the pandemic hit, and it was like every rug that was near me was immediately ripped out from under me and like thrown away. And I was like, okay, how am I going to figure this out? But um, I totally resonate with, like, just wanting to have your own thing, though. Like, that's like the, you know, it's, I think it's a common storyline for all the creators that are out there, where it's like, you want the opportunities that come from working with the brands, but at the same time, like, you don't want to just be like kind of stuck in this place of like doing the same shit all the time for them, because ultimately, like, the brands tend to get really comfortable and say, okay, cool, do this again, do this again, do this again. And then it's like, well, then I'm not growing. And I know you're not growing if I'm not growing, because I'm the one creating this, or doing this for you. But how do you kind of work through that part of, having your own business and, growing from here on out?
Yeah. So I think well, it was definitely something that I wanted to have, because I wanted it to be mine, and I wanted to grow my own thing. Because, like, who doesn't? Like, everyone wants to have their own brand. But I think I wanted to make a difference, and that was my goal: is to use every opportunity that I have in my path, and every opportunity to shape that business, or shape the vision of like what we were delivering. So, and I feel like that's what I'm meant to do. I'm meant to like make people feel uncomfortable about the things that they're doing wrong, and I'm here for it. So I think that that's like, that was my goal with that. And that's completely what I want to focus on, is just continuing to change the things that I want to change within the industry. Um, but some of the struggles are definitely learning all of the back end of it. Like, I know how to create, I can be a creator, I can talk to people, I can do an entire meeting consulting and asking the people for what they want because I've been doing it for so many years. But now, how do I do my taxes? How do I do my all the back end work that I was never taught to do, you know? So it's definitely a learning process because I want to be a good owner. I want to be a good boss to like my future employees. So it's just about like making sure that I am soaking in everything that I can from every opportunity that I get so that I can then use it for my own business and for what I want to build. I don't think that I have many other like struggles yet, except for maybe just, you know, figuring out what's next and figuring out like who I should be talking to. Should I be doing this? You know, there's a lot of like things that you approach as you go in your journey of becoming an entrepreneur and then eventually a business owner. But I feel like just having that mentality of like, I'll deal with whatever is coming when it comes and I'll be prepared for when it does come. Having that mentality is what's going to get you through it and what's going to push you to make sure that you come out of it winning and not come out of it, you know, losing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Do you, are there any like resources that you know, for like the person that's looking to kind of do this same kind of thing, are there any resources or places you found like that you are going back to for information, you know, kind of navigating all this stuff as an entrepreneur and business owner?
Yeah. So, number one, I feel like LinkedIn is underutilized, and I feel like people do not uh, update their websites or they update their profiles. And I think that LinkedIn is like the perfect place to network with corporate people, with people that are in positions to potentially give you an opportunity. I think people don't share enough on there. So LinkedIn is definitely one of those places that I've continued to look back on. It's FOHR. It is a creative like influencer platform agency. I try to go back and see what have they been working on in the past couple of months? What can I take from all of those projects? Who are they working with? What are those budgets looking like? Who has budgets, you know, so that you can know who to reach out to. And it's really just like a bunch of research on the back end actively. And it's sometimes it's not even platforms or tools. Sometimes it's people. So people that you are constantly keeping up with. There's a lot of people that I'm constantly keeping up with on social, on their YouTube, you know, actively engaging, actively networking. But one thing I would say is it not necessarily a tool, but just preparation. Preparation meets opportunity. And if you're not prepared when the opportunity presents itself, that's a missed opportunity. So doing the things like updating your LinkedIn, doing the things like organizing your content calendar, learning how to organize, not just for freelance photographers, but for anyone in any field. It's just being prepared for the opportunities that you're praying for the opportunities that you're working for. There's so many things before the actual opportunity happens that you have to like understand, because I think people just think like, well, that person's getting this deal and that person's doing this and that person's doing that, but they only see what we show. They only see the final product. You don't see all of the late nights that I took editing. You don't see all of the calls that I had to do to get that product. You know, like you don't see any of that stuff, but it's there. And I think if you understand that concept, and if you understand that you have to work twice as hard for everything you want if you want to make it happen, then you will be successful.
Yeah, I think that's incredible advice, because it's something that actually just came up in like the conversations, the sneaker convos thing that I did. And a lot of specifically I'm thinking about like the shop owners that I talk to, right? Like, you know, you mentioned like tip supply, and like I think like there's like always this kind of underlying desire for people that get into sneakers and streetwear and like this whole like surrounding culture, right? Where it's like, you know, someday I'd like to do that, whether that's your own brand or your own store or whatever. Like, I think we all kind of like have that as like something that we're interested in. But one of the things that they also kind of, to what you were saying, their advice to the streetwear, the like up and coming, first t-shirt streetwear brand approaching like a retailer to actually carry the product was exactly that, right? Like people are, we get so excited because we created the product, and it's always, I'm always trying to put myself in like a much younger person's, mindset, because that's where the fire is, and that's where people are excited and pushing the change. But also like that's where like it's, like how can I help that 17-year-old me stay out of trouble and actually go further with that first idea of creating a brand. And I think that's a really interesting thing to hear you say that too, because the others, it's like the completely different side of the world, right? People don't actually think about that when they're making a t-shirt or a hoodie. They're just excited to get that first production done and have it in hand, which I'm not discounting. Like it's amazing, right? Like we've all been there where we've had that first thing we've created, and like, but then like that next step is also like straight backwards to be like, okay, everything has to be in line to start having these conversations. And I guess I never really thought of it from, like even like myself, I feel like I should go, freshen up my LinkedIn page because I haven't updated in a while. I'm on there regularly, but I don't post a lot.
Yeah.
I'm usually just like one of those people that's like reading information and consuming things, and then like, reaching out to people and, connecting with people too, but like definitely not like, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, damn, they definitely see some old shit on LinkedIn right now if they're looking at my page. So
I mean,
it's good to hear.
I'm saying all these things, but I have to apply them too, because you forget, you just like get so wrapped up. But for the people that are starting out, that's a perfect place to go and meet others, connect with others on a bigger scale. And like and I'll use a reference of like wanting to make it to the NBA. You want to make it to the NBA, but are you shooting every day? Are you practicing every day? How many shots did you take? How many 3-pointers did you shoot? Like you have to actively work for it, because when the opportunity comes and you're not ready for it, like you shot your shot for nothing. So I
Yeah.
think that's just like my biggest thing. And even back to what you were saying about the apparel brands, like you have to wear so many different hats. It's not just about the product you built. And as a person who came from almost nothing, I understand that nobody is going to hand me anything, and nobody's going to say, here's 10K, go start your business. Nobody's going to do that for you. Nobody's going to teach you how to do these things. So it's up to you to actively learn them, practice, make, remake, and do all of the things that a like Nike would do, obviously on a much smaller scale.
Yeah.
But you have to be all those things. You have to wear a lot of different hats. You have to be your own marketing person. You have to be your social media person. You have to be your product person, your everything, really.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess like kind of to that point, how do you keep balance in life when you're doing all those different things?
Yeah. Well, I'm still trying to figure it out, but
Me too.
I live off of my planner. Actually, it's right here. This little thing. So I get the ones that don't have any dates, because then you kind of just like use them, and then you stop using them, and then you have to buy a new one. So I hacked it, and I buy the ones that don't have any dates, and I just fill it in case like I go a week without using it. I don't have to like get rid of a whole page just to be on track. So that's my little hack. I plan everything. I plan what time I'm going to eat, what time I'm going to take a break, what time I'm going to go to bed. I plan it all. So, and that's just me. Like, I think that's just inherently who I am. I'm a Virgo. It's in me. Like, it's just who I am. So, it comes easy for me to be able to plan those things, and like where I have to take, 2 hours of this day to take this call, and what I have to do to keep some clients happy, and you have to organize yourself. But if that's the level that I'm trying to be on, if I'm trying to be at the level that I'm trying to reach, that's what I have to do to get there. So it's about balance. It's about learning. I think the one thing that I struggle with the most is saying no. And I'm getting better at it. I'm saying no in a nice way. But knowing when to say no when you're taking on too much, and knowing when to, and I feel like everybody says this, but knowing when to ask for help and knowing who to ask for help, because there's a lot of people in your corner that you could reach out to and ask for help whenever you're feeling, drained, because it's draining. This shit is not easy. Like, I know it looks easy, but it's not. Handling and juggling so many different things at the same time. Like, I have a full-time job and I'm an entrepreneur and I'm trying to build my brand and I'm trying to get clients and I'm trying to still freelance. Like, what? How do I do it? I don't know. It's just a process. You got to learn it. You have to immerse yourself completely into what you're trying to do. And even if you are working a regular job at a retail store, or you're working at a restaurant, or you're a server, anything that you're doing, put your all into it, but also know how to divide your time to the things that you're passionate about so you can build at the same time. It's possible. You have to know how to do it. You have to learn how to balance. There's a lot of sacrifice in the balance part, but it's worth it. When you measure, the sacrifices and the success always looks so much better. So I'm willing to sacrifice a lot of things, not necessarily time for myself. That always has to, get scheduled in. I schedule in a 30-minute, meditation session. And then I also schedule in a yoga session right after all my calls so I can USA and not, go off on anybody. But you do have to take care of yourself, and balance is everything.
So you've done a lot of freelance stuff, and you mentioned it kind of just being a part of it's. I think it's common for people that just want to create to like pick up all sorts of things, right? It's like, I'm, 41 and I don't see myself ever not freelancing. And I don't see, like, sometimes I'll have a full-time job. Sometimes I'll have, way more than full-time amount of work, but I'm always constantly looking for other things. But because like you kind of come from more of a, I guess like more of the photography side of this, what would be, I guess maybe some advice for like a freelancer when they're reaching out to people? Because I think that's super intimidating for a lot of creators, right? Like that part of it is not like the creating part comes naturally. The connecting and the business side, kind of to your point about starting the business, like that stuff is stuff that, we're not really taught at all. It's like, we got to just figure that out. So would you have any advice for, like the freelancers that are looking to like reach out and be a part of, whatever brands they're looking to connect with?
Yeah, I would say show up in every way you can. And I think with COVID being, such a bummer, we can't actually show up to events where we can network in person. But leaving a DM, following an account, looking to see who is the person behind that account, following them, engaging, making sure that you're not doing it just because you want the opportunity, but like you genuinely want to get to know the people and you want to be a part of that. You want to be a part of something bigger. So like I would say being strategic with your connections and with your networking, and also putting yourself out there. The more work you put out, people will be gravitating towards your page already because you're doing dope shit. At first, it's going to take a lot of free work, a lot of free time. It's hard, but that's what you have to do to build. Reach out to local people that could need a video for their restaurant. Go do a video for their restaurant. If you know that your friend needs headshots, tell your friends you'll do headshots. If they all pitch in for a studio, go put your money together, go get a studio. Like level up your content every day. Do not wake up thinking you're going to do the same basic shit you did yesterday. Think of new things, organize yourself, make sure you're presentable, make sure you're responding to emails, make sure you know email etiquette. You're on top of your things, everything else will fall into place. Get a calendar, not just the planner. Get an actual calendar. I have a calendar in here. I have 2 calendars in my living room and 1 on my fridge, and they're all for different things. But everything has an organization and everything has a place. I always preach organization because that's the only way to do it. That's the only way you'll be able to expand and grow. So yeah, like just reaching out to people, shooting with people, collaborating. And the more you post, the more you show your work, whether you're using Instagram as the platform that you choose to post, or TikTok. Actively learn all of the things that you want to do and put your own twist on them and try it. Try it. Don't just say like, oh, I wish I could do that, because you can. Like, we have so many ideas, and I feel like I have this like I do this to myself too. I have this long list of ideas that I write down every single day, and none of them have all, come to life, but I try to get some of them out. But just try it. Put yourself out there. And if you have good intentions and you are a good person and you're doing things for the right reasons, people will automatically come to you and respect the work that you do. And that's how you continue to level up. As you go, you have to be able to evolve. You have to be able to, go from that freelance photographer to that now paid freelance photographer. How do I build a contract? How do I, always research, always ask questions. Don't always just take things for face value. Always look at the other way around. Be a solution person, be a problem solver. So I just think like, thinking ahead is always a good thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I'm terribly organized. Like I'm lists everywhere, and like
I
to-do
can
lists that
see
have
in the
been like
background.
30 years in the making that I'm still working on. But um you mentioned like going out and shooting like, a video for a local restaurant or something, right? Like do you so one of the things that's really fascinating to me about kind of the way Instagram works is like I, I've been really lucky to like work in sneakers. Like it's like pinch myself situation my entire life basically, because I never had this stuff, and like, you know, just never even thought that this was a possibility. But one of the things that I've noticed in recent years is like I stopped posting about sneakers 100% of the time 4 or 5 years ago. And like now it's like I don't care, but I like notice that like if I post, food or my dog or, like sunsets or whatever, like I get way less, engagement, that positive encouragement that is supposed to be positive at least. So how do you kind of look at that with like, someone that's a freelancer, if they let's say specifically a photographer, right? If they're, looking up to you and seeing like, oh, you're doing all these kind of like cool like street style, sneaker streetwear shots, but then if you don't, like it's almost like you see a lot of people have to be super focused in what they post. How would they incorporate that kind of either that vibe or like, the other work that they're doing, right? Because I think, again, like not to just continue to pick on like social media and Instagram, but like we're like funneling into like such narrow areas as creators that I think like it's not surprising to me that like someone like yourself and like a lot of people that I know are like, let's just get out of this box and like let's get more creative and remove ourselves from what this is, because it seems to be just compounding on people. And I'm sure that like the freelancers that are going to watch this and like think about how they get involved in different aspects are probably thinking like, well, if I don't do this, then it looks bad on me because of that. But I agree that I think like, I personally think that doing whatever outside of the comfort zone is only going to make you stronger. But how how would you suggest they approach that even?
Yeah. So and I feel like that it shows on my page. Like, I have built my page to be completely about me in a creative way. So whether that is I am posting about food, I'm making sure that my food looks top notch. I'm making sure that like I'm creating a whole video on how I created that food, I'm just trying to take every single thing that I do and apply my twist onto it. And I think that that's what you have to do. It does suck, and I know that like, you want to post, all of the work that you're creating, and then there's the times when, like you said, you want to share a sunset or the food that you ate that day, and the engagement goes down. If you are trying to build at the beginning, I would say build your niche, build for the people that you are trying to build for and the things that you're trying to put out, and find different ways within that content to spread out a little bit of you onto it without it being so like either I have to post this or I have to post that. You should be able to post anything you want. But then eventually, as you start to grow, as your following starts to grow, as you have more eyes on your page, then you get to inject a little bit more about yourself. Show your face, show people who you are, show people what you do. Put yourself in an uncomfortable situation, because those are the things that make you grow. I would also suggest to get a website where you can showcase, for freelance photographers specifically, or videographers, or bloggers, writers, anything that can be seen visually online. Get yourself a website. Make sure that you build the website exactly how you want it to be, because people share other people's websites. I've gotten clients through our website. Like, people will find you. It's just about making sure that you are using everything, every resource around you to put yourself on. So if you're not going to do it, nobody else is going to do it. Like, nobody else is going to just put you on their website. So invest in yourself, put in the work to diversify yourself, and make sure that people are seeing you from different mediums, not just focused on Instagram. Get on TikTok, get on YouTube, get on, whatever other platform there is to be found, do it.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And it's definitely something that I think is, going back to like putting yourself in an uncomfortable, situations, right? Because ultimately that in itself can be uncomfortable. It's like learning how to put together a website. There's a lot of good places where you can get something together, but I think everybody's been down that path of like, okay, this is frustrating. Like, I'm just going to go back to the camera. Like, for me, it's like, I'm just going to go back to writing and typing up stuff but I think it's super, super good advice. So, almost out of time, but like, I'll throw this last question at you because, I guess technically this is really still supposed to be connected to sneakers in some way or another. But like, what's one thing that you would change about sneakers right now, and why?
Well, the obvious, that it's very male dominated and we need more women in there, but also being able to include people of color, women, and the diversity that we see on these mood boards into actual people that are pushing these projects out from start to finish. Don't just bring me in as a model. Don't just bring me in as a backup. Let me be the photographer. Let me be the guide. Let me be the vision from start to finish. And I think that comes full circle with why Geza and I created Tomorrow Isn't Promised, is to be able to be there from the start. And also with Aglet too, like, I want to be able to be there from the start so that I can make those changes that need to be made and keep people accountable and be that representation in the room for other people so that it starts to change. Like, I know that if I do ever leave Aglet, all of the things that I implemented on diversity and on, highlighting people of color and hiring people of color is going to continue, is establishing people in positions where we can really make a change. Don't just give me a check to come in, or don't just hit me up to pick my brain, actually make me involved in the entire process. So that's what I would change 100%. Besides the other obvious of inclusive sizing, because we all know that we want, and also I think that also plays into it, because if we had women and people of color and women of color in these positions, we would have these opportunities to have more inclusive sizing. And we've seen that there's a whole community and a lot of women in the sneaker industry that are really pushing for this. But obviously we still have a lot more work to do until we can get to that point. But that's what I would change.
Well, it's been awesome chatting with you. You could tell Geza I'm going to be sliding into his DMs soon, so I want to chat with him about what he's doing too. But I guess last but not least, let's definitely reiterate kind of what you're working on with the creator thing, because like that was like the triggering moment of like, I definitely need to talk to her about this now. So
thank you. Yeah. So if you are a creative in any space, doing anything for your community and actively making a change, we want to be able to highlight you through video concept and content creation. I'm trying to expand on what that is. I'm trying to expand on it, just not just being an interview. We have a couple pilots coming out very soon, so stay tuned for that. Download the Aglet app, find out what it is, keep your eyes on it because it's gonna get better. I know we're a little, we just drop digital sneakers, and I think that's what people think we do, but we do a lot more. And if you want to be a part of it, feel free to reach out to me or on the Aglet app. I'm happy to, take in any requests from people that want to be a part of this. We're really looking to highlight multiple creators across the world. I'm not sure how we're going to do that yet. Probably something like this over Zoom, because I can't just travel everywhere. Although Ryan did mention that he wants to send me to Tokyo. So if you're watching this, Ryan, I hope you keep your promise. Okay? Because I want to go to Tokyo. But anyway, so if you are a creator, a creative, and you want to be a part of this, there's a home for you and there's a platform for you to voice who you are and share your story.
Cool. And then I guess last but not least, let's make sure people can find you online too so they can connect with you directly.
Yes. So my handle is Lucy Crivelli, LucyCrivelli. It's actually on my little screen here. But follow me, engage with me, message me. I respond to everybody and all. And if you ever want any advice on anything that you should be doing, whether you're a freelancer or you want to get into marketing, community, whatever it is, I'm here. I am an open book, and I will probably not know every answer to your question, but I'll figure it out, or I'll find somebody that knows the answer to your question. So thank you so much for having me, Nick. Seriously.
Yeah, of course. It was great chatting with you. I'm sure we'll be working together in the future on some stuff. But yeah, I definitely want to talk to Geza too. So just you can give him a forewarning that I'm coming. So
all right, I'll let him know.
All right. Thank you again. Thanks everybody for watching, tuning in, listening, wherever you're taking in this content. I appreciate you, and I will catch you next time. Peace. Cool.